Imagine a weapon moving so fast that by the time a radar system detects it, military commanders might have less than a minute to react. Not 10 minutes, not even 5, sometimes less than 60 seconds. Now imagine that weapon doesn't follow a predictable path. It doesn't travel in a clean arc through the sky like traditional missiles. Instead, it weaves, dips, and maneuvers through the atmosphere at speeds that push the limits of physics. That's the reality many defense analysts say the world is beginning to face with hypersonic weapons. In recent years, reports and claims about Iran's hypersonic missile program have sparked intense debate among military experts. Some analysts say these weapons could challenge the missile defense systems countries have relied on for decades. Others argue the technology is still evolving, and its true capabilities remain unclear. But one thing is certain. If hypersonic weapons reach their full potential, they could dramatically reshape the balance of military power across the globe. And the story behind them is more complex and more unsettling than most people realize. Because this isn't just about one missile, it's about a technological shift that could change how wars are fought for generations. And the moment this technology appeared, the global arms race entered an entirely new phase. For decades, missile defense worked on a simple principle. If you could detect a missile early enough, you could calculate its trajectory and intercept it before it reached its target. Traditional ballistic missiles follow a predictable path. They launch, accelerate into the upper atmosphere, arc through space, and then descend toward their destination. That predictable arc is what makes interception possible. Systems like Patriot, THAAD, and Israel's Arrow defense network were designed around this principle. Radar systems track incoming missiles, computers calculate where they'll be at specific moments in time, and interceptor missiles launch to collide with them mid-flight. It's a complex process, but mathematically it works. But hypersonic weapons change that equation completely. Instead of following a simple arc, these missiles can travel at extreme speeds while actively maneuvering. Some reports suggest certain hypersonic weapons could exceed Mach 10 or even Mach 15, meaning they travel more than 10 to 15 times the speed of sound. At those speeds, a missile can cover several miles every single second, which means the moment a defense system detects it, the clock starts ticking incredibly fast. Military analysts sometimes call this the 60-second problem. By the time sensors identify the threat, classify it, calculate its trajectory, and launch an interceptor, the weapon could already be dangerously close to its target. And if the missile changes direction during flight, those calculations can become almost useless. But speed alone isn't what makes hypersonic weapons so difficult to stop. The real challenge lies in what happens when objects move through the atmosphere that fast. At hypersonic speeds, the air itself becomes a major obstacle. As a missile pushes through the atmosphere at several miles per second, friction generates enormous heat, often reaching temperatures hotter than molten lava. This heat creates a plasma sheath around the weapon. Plasma is a highly energized state of matter that can interfere with radio signals and radar waves. In simple terms, the missile may appear blurred, distorted, or even partially invisible to tracking systems. Radar operators might see the object, jump from one position to another, rather than moving smoothly across the screen. That makes it much harder for computers to maintain an accurate track. But the physics problems don't stop there. Extreme heat and pressure mean the materials used in hypersonic weapons must withstand intense thermal stress. Guidance systems must function in chaotic electromagnetic conditions, and control surfaces must continue operating even while the vehicle is moving faster than a rifle bullet by several orders of magnitude. Designing a weapon that survives those conditions is incredibly difficult. Yet several countries, including the United States, Russia, China, and reportedly Iran, have been pursuing this technology for years. Which raises a fascinating question. How did a country under heavy sanctions manage to develop hypersonic missile capabilities at all? Iran's missile program didn't appear overnight. For decades, the country invested heavily in missile research, viewing long-range weapons as a key component of its national defense strategy. While much of the technology remained secretive, analysts believe Iran gradually expanded its capabilities through a combination of domestic engineering, foreign research, and lessons learned from previous missile designs. Some reports suggest Iranian engineers studied captured drone technology and open scientific research related to high-speed flight. Others claim the country invested heavily in advanced materials and propulsion systems needed for hypersonic travel. Over time, these efforts reportedly evolved into projects designed to create Maneuverable high-speed weapons. One of the most widely discussed systems is a missile known as Fateh, which Iranian officials claim can reach hypersonic speeds and perform evasive maneuvers during flight. Independent verification of every claim remains difficult, but defense analysts around the world have been closely watching these developments, because if even part of the capability is accurate, it would represent a significant milestone in Iran's military technology. And the way these weapons operate during flight is what makes them particularly concerning. Unlike traditional ballistic missiles, some hypersonic weapons use what's known as a glide vehicle. The process begins with a rocket booster. The rocket launches the vehicle high into the atmosphere, accelerating it to extreme speeds. But instead of following a long ballistic arc through space, the vehicle separates and begins gliding along the upper layers of the atmosphere. Think of it like a stone skipping across water, except it's traveling thousands of miles per hour. During this phase, the weapon can maneuver left, right, or even adjust altitude. That ability makes it far harder for defense systems to predict its final destination. As the missile approaches its target, it enters the terminal phase of flight. This is when it dives downward at incredible speed while potentially performing last-second maneuvers. Interceptors attempting to hit the target must calculate the exact point in space where the missile will be in the future. But if the missile changes direction even slightly, that predicted point could suddenly be miles away from the actual weapon, which means the interceptor misses completely. This is why many analysts describe hypersonic missiles as a defensive nightmare. But the consequences extend far beyond one country's defense systems. For years, nations invested billions of dollars building layered missile defense networks. Each system was designed to intercept specific types of threats: short-range rockets, medium-range missiles, long-range ballistic weapons. Together, they formed a protective shield intended to stop incoming attacks before they could reach cities or military bases. But hypersonic weapons challenge this entire concept. Because those systems were designed around predictable trajectories, when a target can maneuver unpredictably at extreme speed, interception becomes dramatically more complicated. Some experts argue existing defenses may still have limited capability depending on the scenario. Others say current systems might only provide warning rather than protection. Either way, the debate has sparked serious concern among military planners because the implications stretch far beyond the Middle East. Iran isn't the only nation pursuing hypersonic technology. Russia has publicly tested several systems, including weapons reportedly capable of reaching extraordinary speeds. China has also invested heavily in hypersonic glide vehicles and advanced missile research. Meanwhile, the United States has been accelerating its own programs in response. Each country hopes to achieve two things. First, develop weapons that can penetrate enemy defenses. Second, create defensive technologies capable of stopping those same weapons. But right now, the offensive side of the equation appears to be advancing faster than the defensive side. That imbalance has sparked what many experts describe as the beginning of a new arms race, a race not just for faster missiles, but for entirely new forms of defense. If traditional missile interceptors struggle against hypersonic weapons, what could stop them? Researchers are exploring several possibilities. One option involves directed energy weapons, such as high-powered lasers. If a laser can maintain focus on a hypersonic vehicle long enough, it could theoretically damage critical components during flight. Another possibility involves electromagnetic railguns, capable of firing projectiles at incredible speed. Some scientists also believe artificial intelligence could play a major role. AI-driven systems might predict maneuver patterns and calculate intercept solutions faster than human operators. But most of these ideas remain experimental. Developing reliable defenses could take years, or even decades. Until then, the strategic balance may continue shifting. Hypersonic weapons do more than challenge missile defense systems. They compress decision-making time during crises. When countries have minutes, or even seconds, to respond to a potential attack, the risk of miscalculation increases dramatically. Military leaders must make faster decisions with less information. Political leaders face pressure to react before confirming what's actually happening. And in an age where multiple nations possess advanced weapons, the stakes become incredibly high. Some analysts believe hypersonic technology could fundamentally reshape deterrence strategies around the world. Others argue it's simply the next step in a long evolution of military technology. But regardless of which perspective proves correct, one thing is clear. The emergence of hypersonic weapons marks a turning point in modern warfare, and the race to control this technology is only just beginning. History shows that every major breakthrough in military technology forces nations to rethink their strategies. The introduction of aircraft changed naval warfare. Nuclear weapons reshaped global politics. And now, hypersonic weapons may be opening another chapter. Whether they ultimately prove unstoppable or eventually meet new defenses remains uncertain. But the conversation they've started about speed, strategy, and the future of warfare is already transforming how the world thinks about security. The real question isn't just who builds the fastest missile. It's who adapts fastest to a world where reaction time might be measured not in minutes, but in seconds.